Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of Citizens Bank Michigan, Rick Hampson.
All right, well, thank you. Citizens Bank is thrilled to once again sponsor the State of the Region report. It's a report that provides a comprehensive snapshot of the economic health and well-being of Southeast Michigan. When you look at the data that comes out of this report, I think many of us would say we're surprised and highly encouraged by how quickly we've rebounded from the recession and the challenges we had. Some of the data: unemployment is trending at the national average. Office vacancy rates, this is a big one, for the first time since the recession, is now below the national average. Median home values are up 42% year over year. That's nearly double the national average. And then a big one for me is patent growth. We continue to lead our peer regions in year over year patent growth versus all the other regions. And that's basically an indication of innovation in the region, which I think is critical for us. But in order to get a real sense as to why Detroit is doing so well after a lot of challenging years, you have to really look past the top line statistics, and you have to sit down with CEOs and business owners and ask them what are their personal plans, what are their growth plans, and why do they think now is a critical time to invest in their companies. In those conversations, three themes emerged. First one, workforce shortages. Workforce shortages is clearly a headwind for our region and many regions around the country. But what it leads to is investments in automation, robotics, digital solutions, and things to make our companies more efficient and better and able to operate with fewer workers, which at a time where finding skilled workers is challenging, is critical for our companies. That's a theme we heard from all these conversations. Second one, momentum and large projects. There is a clear sign of momentum in our region. You can see it across a lot of industries. Automotive, while the production numbers are projected to be slightly down in 2019, the OEMs have announced record new launches, which means a redeployment of key people to other platforms, taking those diverse people assets and letting them work somewhere else. So that's a key one. And then within automotive as well, mobility and autonomous driving. Those are places where our workers are going to find their way to transition to those kind of jobs. We're a leader not only in the country, but in the world in that space. So we're going to see a lot there. It was mentioned earlier, defense and military spending is on the rise. Big industry for Southeast Michigan, so we're going to see positive there. So lots of momentum. And then you move over to large projects. There are a number of very visible, very important large projects in the region that means work for our companies and jobs for our people. Some examples, a new bridge from Detroit to Canada, a big new building going on at the old Hudson site, Ford Motor Company taking over and redeploying the train station, development along the riverfront, and then the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy's ongoing beautification there. They're doing a ton of work. I see some of the Riverfront Conservancy people here. So there's great things going on there. So these are all really positive things for our region and our people. And then last is regional collaboration. I continue to feel, and you talk to our CEOs and business owners around, that there's a true sense of collaboration in this region among business leaders, political leaders, and community leaders. They work together to collaborate and get things done, and that's how this region is going to continue to thrive. So very important thing there. There truly is a sense of working together by business leaders across industries to help each other, because truly a positive business environment is going to be good for everybody involved. So I say, collaboration, momentum, large projects, these are the things going on that are great. The one last ingredient you need, I think, to make a great environment is to have the communities be healthy, educated, and employed. So I think that's critical, that they're healthy, educated, and employed. And so it leads me to just comment on a couple at Citizens Bank, let me mention, we're huge on volunteering in our communities, giving back to the communities. Some examples on the hunger side, Gleaners Community Food Bank. On the financial literacy and mentoring, junior achievement, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And then on economic development and workforce development, you have the Eastern Market, I see Dan in the front here, and organizations like that. So we have a lot of good partnerships that are critical, I think, to this community. So let me leave you with, we have positive momentum, we have a lot of good things going on here. I think what we're going to need to keep doing in this region is to be innovative and focus on automation. And if you think about innovation and automation and Ford Motor Company, that's how we got to who we are and how great we are in this region. So I think that's going to be critical for us. So let me leave you by saying thank you for all you do for Southeast Michigan and the great city of Detroit, and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, returning to the stage, please welcome Sandy Baruah.
Well, Rick, thank you so much, and thanks to the team at Citizens Bank. And it was so great to have Professor Shih here. Just want to give you a little bit of background. Professor Shih left this morning from Logan Airport on a flight that boarded at 4:42 a.m. And he just left because he has a class to teach tonight. So he really made the extra effort to be with us today. And thanks again to our great friend, Devin Skillian, who always does the greatest interviews. So this is the 5th year of the report, and what we're really excited about is that this is a piece of work that businesses are able to use. It's not just something that we use. And it also captures so much of the good news that is happening here. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that every headline about Detroit was a bad one. Now, over the last several years, every headline about Detroit and the region and frankly the state of Michigan is a positive one. So what a difference 5 years can make. We have a tremendous amount to celebrate. But what does good really look like? We know we're doing really well compared to where we were in this region. And I think if we could get back into our time machine and go back a few years, say 2007, 2009, and if we said to ourselves, hey, this is how our region and our state is going to look in the year 2018, I am not sure we would have believed them. So we have a lot to be excited about. We are still growing. But if we were to summarize all the data that's in the book in front of you, we would probably say this: our growth is beginning to level off. We are still performing well, and in a lot of our benchmarks, we are performing better than national averages. That's good news. We're certainly performing better than where we were. That's good news. We are not gaining on our peer regions as fast as we were. Having done this report for 5 years, we're seeing that curve start to slow down. But we're seeing the other regions that we compete against continue to go very, very strongly. Now, the metrics that we have as an organization mirror what's in the book. The data that we collect and share with you is the same data that we use to develop the strategy and the programs of the Detroit Regional Chamber. We have programs around metrics around people, around community, around talent, around global connectivity, and around next generation mobility. And we have specific metrics in all of those areas, because we think that if we're going to be a chamber of commerce that is moving the needle in this region, we can't focus just on business issues. We need to focus on a platform of issues that impact people, community, and businesses. So let's get to the data. I'm not going to go through the entire book because you have it in front of you, but I do want to let you know that in addition to the book, it is available online, and you can customize reports through our data center. But gross domestic product, this region, 5-year growth rate, we are slightly behind the national average for the 2nd year in a row, but last year we had a good year. We actually outperformed year over year the national average. Private sector job growth, this is a really positive number. 300,000 new private sector jobs in this region since the end of the Great Recession. To put that in perspective, that is the same number of new private sector jobs that they created in Seattle and Boston, so not bad. Our unemployment rate has been incredible. How many people remember what the unemployment rate here was in June 2007? It was almost 15%. Now, in June of 2018, it was 5%, and in September, this is not in your book, 3.7%. We are at the national average, a huge, tremendous success. Per capita income is one of the areas that we're doing really, really strongly. Our year-over-year growth last year, 4.3%, outpaced the national average at 4.1%, and we are third in our peer group. That is a very strong showing. We all know this, we all feel this. Our household median values up 42+% over the last 5 years. And our one-year growth rate was almost 7% better than the national average. So really, really strong numbers there. Foreign direct investment, another banner year. We had a banner year this last year. We had a banner year the year before. 2.4 billion, that's billion with a B, folks, of new investment in 2017. Those 70 projects from foreign companies here in Southeast Michigan created almost 10,000 new jobs for Michiganders right here in our neighborhood. Next generation mobility. We have the world's best assets, and Devin and Professor Shih talked about this. We have the best assets for mobility. Certainly through our MishAuto program, which leads the state in terms of putting coalitions together to focus Michigan, both the private sector and the public sector, around next generation mobility. But the assets we have here are incredible. 17 original equipment manufacturers headquarters or leading tech centers right here in the state and the region. 96 of the top 100 tier 1 suppliers right here in the state of Michigan. And there are 2,200 plus engineering and R&D facilities investing in next generation mobility in the state of Michigan, far outseating any other place. And when you look at the assets we have, like M-City, the American Center for Mobility, we have a set of assets that is really leading the world, and we need to continue to capitalize on. If we talk about diversifying our economy, that is the platform in which we will diversify our economy off of. Now, as I mentioned, there's not all good news. We have issues that we need to be aware of. Labor force participation rate. For those of you who were here the last couple of years, you know that this continues to be a lagging problem here. We are a full percentage below the national average when it comes to labor force participation. Folks, that is not a good place to be. And that puts us dead last in our peer group. So we need to get more people who are currently not in the labor force involved in our economy. That's what we're talking about when we talk about the commons. Our community well-being index, we use the Gallup index for community well-being. Now this isn't an 11-county metric, this is about a 6-county metric, so it's kind of the closer core to the city of Detroit. We are, good news, we're higher than we were last year, but we're still 145 out of 189. Again, that's not a good place to be. Educational attainment, we have talked about this over and over and over again, and if there's any one thing that has shaped the Chamber's agenda and our programs the most over the last few years, is this issue of educational attainment. We are below the national average in educational attainment. That's not a good place to be, and we are at the bottom in our peer group. Really, really not good. We have to hit the red flashing light and do something about these. Our poverty rate, this is a city-by-city comparison, not a regional comparison. The national average is 13%. The city of Detroit is a little over 34%. The good news is that over the last years, during Mike Duggan's time as mayor, we have seen that number drop. So there's been a substantial drop in poverty in the city of Detroit, but it's still quite high. So, what is the action items taking away from this? Well, certainly, let's not forget to celebrate our wins. We don't do a good enough job here in Michigan and the Detroit area celebrating all the good things that are happening. You thumb through that report, you'll see a lot of good news, and we've come a tremendous amount of way. Secondly, all of us need to urge our elected officials, particularly the ones who are just now coming into office after the last election, that the most important thing we can have is some consistency in some policies. Governor Snyder did a great job setting a framework that allowed us to be growing as an economy. and we don't want to see large changes to that. States that have the most successful economies generally have very consistent approaches year over year and between administrations, regardless if they change parties. As my friend Doug Rothwell says, Michigan's most consistent attribute when it comes to public policy is inconsistency. We need to move away from that. And thirdly, we need to acknowledge that we are no longer at that rising end of the curve. Yes, we are still growing. Yes, we are still beating a lot of national averages. And yes, we are doing better than where we were. But we are no longer gaining in some key metrics against our national peers. So it's fine to look at ourselves and say, hey, we look great compared to what we used to look like. But when we look at what our other peers are doing, they're moving even faster than we are. So we need to focus on that. And finally, we need to focus on our commons. You know, one of the things that we need to be able to do is that there are 690,000 people in this region, not in the state, in this region, that have some college but no degree. So in other words, almost 700,000 people in our region that have spent some time at a community college or a university, didn't finish, so that means they may still have some college debt of some sort, but they don't have any kind of certificate to show what they've learned. If we can get those people to finish their associate's degree or their four-year degree, think of the difference that would make for them and their families and for you as employers. And think of what that would do to our per capita income. Those are the kinds of activities that we at the Chamber are going to spend more time focused on in the years ahead, this issue of the commons, in addition to our business advocacy. So, one last thing before we all go. I mentioned that we've had a long-term relationship with Michael Porter and Harvard, and I'm pleased to say we're going to make our first Mackinac Policy Conference keynote speaker announcement. Michael's coming back to Mackinac in 2019, and with him is going to be his co-author of his latest work, Catherine Gell, and they've worked on an important piece of paper, an important project, which I had the privilege of helping to input into, entitled Why Competition in Politics is Failing America. Think about that. The competitive system works really, really well in our businesses. It makes our businesses better, it makes our people better, it creates better products. That hasn't really worked in politics, I think we'd all agree. So that is going to be one of the discussions we're going to have at Mackinac next year. We hope you can be there, but most importantly, we are so thankful that you're here today. I want to thank the 180 businesses that help support our economic development work. I want to thank all of you for being here today. We know your time is valuable. We hope you found this enjoyable and informative. Please take the report with you. Drive safe, and for those of you I don't see, happy holidays.